moderate rate, barium and other heavy metals are released into the environment, which can easily leach into the groundwater. With a printed circuit board, they usually desolder it to remove computer chips, and they carry out open burning and acid bath to remove final metals after chips. So this will lead to the emission of lead, tin, glass dust, brominated dioxide, and other hazardous waste. Likewise, they have chips and other gold-plated components, which will lead to the release of hydrocarbons, other heavy metals, brominated substances, which will discharge into rivers and the acidifying fish and flora. Other e-waste components include the plastics from the printers, the keyboards, the monitors, the computer wires. So as I mentioned, some of these plastics, they come with flame retardants, especially the brominated noise, and they release the brominated dioxins, while heavy metals and hydrocarbons can come from the keyboards and computer wires. We have the hydrocarbon ashes released into the air. So what is the health effect of this hazardous electronic waste? When humans or animals are exposed to this, it causes a lot of health hazard. For instance, PVC is a potential cause of cancer. It can disrupt the endocrine system, reproductive impairment, and others. While the brominated retardants would disrupt the endocrine system, it can damage organs like the thyroid gland and liver. It can cause the cancer of the digestive and lymph system, and it can be neurotoxic. It can cause some neurotoxic effects. Arsenic, beryllium, and barium also are known to either irritate the digestive system. Arsenic is lethal. When consumed in high dose, it causes cancer. So beryllium is poisonous and can lead to cancer. Barium can cause a lot of health issues. Mercury, phthalates, antimony, and polychlorinated biphenyls also are known to cause a lot of health hazard, ranging from damaged kidneys and the brain, interference with the development of testes in life, and can damage liver, kidney, and lungs. And also some of them can affect the skin, and they can suppress the immune system. Chlorobenzene, polybrominated diphenyls, and triphenyl phosphates. So some of these, especially the PDVDs and the TPPs, are used as flame retardants, and they interfere with normal brain development. They can destroy the endocrine system, and it has the potential to interfere with hormones involved in growth. So as a result of this electronic waste had a lot of global legislation. Electronic waste. So one of them is the Basel Convention of the Control of Transboundary Movement of Hazardous Waste at their disposal, which was adopted in 1989. This is in order to stop the transboundary movement of this hazardous waste, which one of them is the electronic waste. So apart from the electronic waste, we also have other chemicals. So this Basel Convention came as a result of the Cocodom incident, as mentioned by the chairman of the Chemical Society. So So the objective of the Basel Convention are to reduce transboundary movement of hazardous and other wastes to minimum, consistent with the environmental and sound management, to treat and dispose hazardous waste and other waste as close to their source of generation in an environmentally sound manner, to minimize the generation of hazardous waste across borders as well as prevention of illegal traffic, to prohibit shipment of hazardous waste to countries lacking waste across borders as well as prevention of illegal traffic, to assist developing countries and countries with economies in transition in environmental sound management of hazardous waste they generate. And we also have the Bamako Convention on the ban of import into Africa and control of transboundary movement and management of hazardous waste within Africa. It is an agreement by African nations that was intended to prohibit the import of hazardous waste into Africa. So in Nigeria, there were national legislation put in place to check the issues of these hazardous substances. One of them is the Environmental Impact Assessment Act, CAP-E-12. The objective is to ensure that environmental factors are always considered in the decision making, while likely adverse hazardous environmental impacts are identified. Carrying, deposition, and dumping of harmful waste on any land, territorial waters, and matters relating thereto. We also have the National Environmental Electric and Electronic Sector Regulations of 20 being reviewed specifically to capture a lot of issues out of the agency that is necessary in tackling the menace of US include the creation of Inter-Ministerial Committee on E-Waste consisting of Nigerian Customs Service, the Federal Competition Consumer Protection Council, the Alava Market Amalgamated Traders Association, and NESFIA, to ensure that only functional electronic equipment are imported into the country, and to ensure that even the new ones are of good standard. We also hosted the International Conference on E-Waste in Abuja 2009, which was called the Abuja Platform on E-Waste Control. And the third one was the establishment of Toxic Waste Dam Watch Committee at regional and sub-regional levels with objectives to monitor, reduce incidences of importation and dumping of near end-of-life electronic equipment and e-waste, to hold the flow of hazardous waste into Nigeria, to enforce actions to reduce dumping of waste, and to respond to calls and alerts on any suspicion at sea. So usually we have a vigil going on heist close to the Nigerian territorial waters. So the first international e-waste summit in Nigeria was held in 2011 in Lagos with the team for regulation and management of e-waste in Nigeria. So due to the combined effects of different stakeholders under this Toxic Waste Dam Watch, Nigeria has succeeded in the arrest and repatriation of a lot of shipments. You can see we have listed them 1 to 10 and the dates. So we have returned them back to their countries of origin. Some of them came from Europe, some of them from Asia. So part of the agency's effort to check the menace of the e-waste include the development of regulation, as I've mentioned. We also issue out import clearance in order to ensure that whatever is coming to the country as electronic equipment is not at the end of its life. So the agency is also collaborating with international communities to control illegal shipment of e-waste into Nigeria. Such organizations include the International Network for Environmental Compliance Seaport Environmental Security, International Criminal Police Organization, United States Environmental Protection Agency, that of UK, Germany, and others. So it is worthy of not know that nowadays we have stopped the repatriation of US of Nigeria. So what we do is to direct the seizures to this PRO for proper recycling in Nigeria. So another effort undertaken by NESFIA is the coming up of the extended producer responsibility. So the EPR is a strategy in which the generator of waste is saddled with the responsibility of taking care of it at the end of its life. So the fundamental goals of it to reduce waste stream, prevention, reuse, and recycling of product and design, among others. So the major aim is to achieve a circular economy where the waste is always used as a resource, so that we have a sustainable development of natural resources. Thus, which include importers, major distributors, etc. We have the producer responsibility organization, which is a third party. It is formed by the producers with the assistance of the agency. We have those that are involved in the collection of the e-waste, which we call collectors. So we already have a lot of informal collectors, but presently there are 3 formal collectors in Nigeria that we recognize. We also have we have many collectors for the recyclers. Presently we have 3 of them that we recognize. The recyclers are those that processes the e-waste to drive other valuable products. So NESFIA is a stakeholder which is representing the government, while the consumers are the individuals that buy some of these products. So the EPR program in the electronic sector is aimed at ensuring environmental sound management of e-waste. This involves collecting all the e-waste from the environment and treating them in an environmentally sound manner, protect human health and environment from negative effects, and to recycle them in a formal way. To develop cost-effective recycling and disposal systems for various e-waste categories, and to share the knowledge gain regionally and globally on the circular economic model for the electronics sector among the African. We are trying to replicate so this are some one of the workshops in the pilot project in Lagos. You can see how this place is being littered with electronic waste and somewhat. While this one is one of the recycling facilities at the formal e-waste. There's need for all of us to come together, and that's, thank God, the Chemical Society of Nigeria and IUPAC, under this Chemrawn, we have taken this challenge, how they can assist the electronic sector to subscribe to the EPR program. We are already given a lot of time. We have already started working and discussing other stakeholders to ensure that we compare all those that are supposed to register. So we're making registration with EPRS. You must subscribe to the EPR. We are discussing with and other agencies. So the import sector should be restricted to only collection and not the chemical know-how. While dismantle the impact on the environment, it impact on the human health. So they should just do the collection and take it to the formal recycling facility for recycling. The import sector should be organized into clusters and trained, formalizing the informal sector. Already we have identified some collectors. We have given them training and personal protective equipment so that they can work in a safe way. So the protection of the environment is our collective responsibility to ensure sustainable development and support the government to protect our fragile environment. So in conclusion, the West in Africa, the EOS in Africa is a major challenge that needs to be tackled strategically considering the negative effect of the hazardous chemicals in them to human health and the environment. Presently, only a few African countries, which include Nigeria, have made a significant progress in the management of waste, electronic waste in terms of policy and legal framework, and a lot still needs to be done in the implementation of the EPR in African countries and in Nigeria also. So tackling these menace requires a multi-stakeholders efforts, and all hands have to be on deck for sustainable development. The implementation of the EPR program holds a lot of promise for combating EOS in Africa. In Nigeria, Nigeria counts on the support of all and sundry for this achievement. The agency is happy to be associated with this platform, and we call on relevant stakeholders to join hands with NESTA in ensuring an environmental, sustainable and resilient economy. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for this presentation. Where? I don't think I'm on the big screen in the hall now. Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much, Aliyu. I don't know if I'm connected to the hall or not. Can you tell me?
You are connected.
I'm connected, okay. Well, thank you so much for this comprehensive presentation. You really set the stage for our meeting, and I appreciate so much for your delicate slides that I hope will be available somehow. For the benefit of the program, I think we will move on, and it is my pleasure now to give the floor to Professor Oladele Osibanjo. He is a retired professor from the University of Ibadan, where he was a professor of analytical chemistry for more than 40 years. He has been extremely active in the chemical community in Nigeria, and as former executive director of the Basel Convention Coordinating Center for Training and Technical Transfer for Africa, he has played a vital role regarding handling of e-waste in that continent. and he is also a past president of the Chemical Society of Nigeria. And it is a great pleasure now to give the floor to Professor Oladele Banjo. He is going to talk about relevant international conventions and management. Please.
Hello. Yeah. Now, hearty congratulations to Chemical Society of Nigeria. I want to give you some good news which you didn't know. The previous speaker talked about cocoa toxic waste. To the glory of God, I analyzed cocoa toxic waste in 1988 for the federal government, and after analysis, the samples were taken abroad for confirmation. That was how I became FEPA resident consultant. Yes. And when we are talking about electronic waste, we are talking about chemicals as well, because the electronic waste is hazardous waste. They contain metals, they contain POPs, persistent organic pollutants, and so on and so forth. And therefore, it's a good topic for our 50th anniversary. And one, again, just replying to the past presentation, was the report by Jim Pocket, the director of Basel Action Network in the USA. He is a #1 public man when you talk about hazardous waste. In 2005, he raised an alarm in Lagos that over 5 million used computers have been coming into Nigeria, and only maybe 20% is working. The rest is just gap. And that was how the interest in e-waste started in Nigeria. People that suddenly say, hey, you go to Ikeja, it's all over the place. So people were not conscious until that. And it's been forward ever since then. Now, the problem with the management, in quote, of e-waste in Nigeria and Africa generally is the informal sector that dominates this. And they use crude metals. Some of this has been mentioned. Sometimes they break them open. Sometimes they burn. When they burn the cables, it's because there is copper metal inside. Instead of scraping up, they burn the plastic. And that creates dioxin and furan, as the last speaker said, creating health problems. And I'm also happy that issue of health impact is in the program. Studies we have done at Ibadan has shown high levels of various toxicants in blood of people in the informal sector. So it's good that more has to be done just to ensure that people don't die out of ignorance. Now, it's a shame we don't have the opportunity. I have Jim Pocket's CD, which he called The Digital Dump, Exporting Reuse and Abuse to Africa. At that time, some people even maroon as donors, that they donate computer. If they donate 10, only 2, 3 will be working. The rest is garbage. So in a way, they are also dumping through whatever, because we like to get this for free, don't we? Yes. Now, this problem, the cocoa toxic waste predated the issue of Jim Pocket in 2005. And these problems are replicated in other African countries and even in other developing countries. The international world did not just go on looking. So the UN has to step in and find out what is going on, various countries are there, developed and developing, and they came up with multilateral environmental agreements that try to moderate and ensure that dumping of hazardous substances in developing countries is reduced, and strictly for that matter. And then measures were put in place. Now, there are challenges as part of what I said we've done. We found high birth defects rates from some of the pesticides and industrial chemicals. And of course, time is of the essence, so I'm trying to summarize. Now, the special class of chemicals have been found in the e-waste. If you look at the Basel document, as I get e-waste, Annex 3, A1180 is hazardous waste. You find all sorts of metals and so on there. And our people, when they, in quote, try to recycle, they don't wear any safety gadgets or whatever. They just pure hand. And even in non-aerated rooms, when cocoa toxic waste issue started in 1985, if you had gone to Computer Village, you will see somebody in a dark room. He will put engineer Y something. I say, what are you doing? You say, I'm an engineer. I'm trying to get these things out. I said, do you know what they do to your health? Anyway, so the POPs, they are very, very important in agriculture, in industry, in many ways. And we try to, if you look at literature, persistent organic pollutants are persistent. They have long lives of up to 16 years or more. They bioaccumulate. They undergo long-range transboundary atmospheric transport and deposition. And they also cause significant adverse human health effects. And okay, you have there, I hope you're following me. Right. You have the POPs, you have the dirty dozen. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah, I think I was going fast. So that is the CD I'm talking about, the digital dump from Jim Pocket, which revealed that Lagos is just a reception garbage place for electronic waste in developed countries. Of course, things have changed. Nezra has been, next one, Nezra has been, next please. Next, I was going too fast. Now, on the left there, go back, please. Sorry. On the left there was part of the cocoa toxic waste. And on the right there, when Jim Pocket discovered those things, he drove to my office in UI at the Basel Center. I was the director of the Basel Coordinating Center then for about 10 years. And that's how we decided to rep this. Next one, please. Now, POPs, I've mentioned these chemicals, they are used as pesticides on farmland. They are also used for health reasons, but they are also very deadly if they are not properly used. Next one. Next one, please. Next one. Next. Yeah, that's the POPs. Any part of the body can be attacked. Look at that. So, not COVID-19 this time around. So if you have been in an enclosed place where they have been spraying POPs, any of this chemical. DDT is still used in the country, although not legally. Some of these things are still there, and you can always pick them up if you look at the blood of people and so on and so forth. POPs, these are usual patients in Japan. Next one, please. Next one. Next one. Yeah, any part of the body, they attack. So, as I said, don't confuse them with COVID-19. These are chemicals. They still sell in the market under different names. Next one. Yeah, that is usual patients. These POPs too can cause skin eruptions. Next one. Even to the back of the lady. Next one. Now, the developed world, you are supposed to be your brother's keeper. So developed countries dumping their dirty, toxic, industrial waste in developing countries. Now, the wonderful experience of going digital, the instruments, the gadgets have become another nightmare. So, the world decided to react first, right from the days of dumping of toxic waste all over the place. And the three most prominent conventions are the Basel Convention, Stockholm Convention, and Rotterdam Convention. Usually in the UN, the city where a decision is taken, then that decision is named after that city. So Basel is a town in Switzerland. So it means the meeting took place there. The same thing goes for Rotterdam and Stockholm. Stockholm is in Sweden. Now, why do these conventions, or what we call multilateral environmental agreements, why are they working together? One, they have a common objective to protect human health and the environment. Two, they have a framework of life cycle management. The three conventions together cover elements of cradle to grave. Nowadays, you don't just kill and go away. You want to look at the root cause and go beyond so that you have a holistic solution of addressing the issues. And then these three conventions too have interlocking scope. That is, their scope overlap and coverage. And a common thread, most of the persistent organic pollutants are covered by all three conventions as well. And under the POPs, you have many pesticides, and many of the pesticides you find in Stockholm as well as on Rotterdam are subject again to the three conventions. So if any waste merchant escapes one, it will not escape the other two. So to have a make sure comprehensive effort to stem their activity. And as waste, all chemicals fall under the scope of the Basel Convention. After the initial dumping in cocoa, in this and that, that's when Basel came into being. So all chemicals under the scope of the Basel Convention, again, they all work together, and the Basel Convention has a much wider scope and covers several other waste streams, both substances and products. Now, what is the scope and coverage of each of these conventions or multilateral environmental agreements? Basel covers waste listed in Annex 1 as further elaborated in Annexes 8 and 9, and possessing hazardous characteristics such as being explosive, flammable, poisonous, infectious, corrosive, and then, of course, toxic and ecotoxic, as well as household waste. Now, where you've been dumping and spraying toxic components, definitely the household waste will have been contaminated, so they become toxic by themselves. And waste defined as hazardous under the national legislation can also be covered. So Nigeria can tighten the laws that say beyond Basel, we are also including so, and so. And once we inform the international community, they took note of it, and everybody tried to respect it. And then Stockholm Convention covers 21 POPs, 13 pesticides, 8 industrial chemicals, and byproducts, decided to list one more substance, endosulfine, at COP5 at a later date. Now, a little bit more about Basel Convention. The full name is Basel Convention on the Control of Transboundary Movements of Hazardous Waste and their Disposal. It's not just identify, it's you follow it to its grave, that they are properly disposed of in an environmentally sound manner. And then the Basel Convention was adopted in 1989 in response to concerns about developed country companies dumping hazardous waste in developing countries. During the cocoa era, we had a military regime then. The waste were returned to Italy. The consignment came from Italy, and the military gave marching orders, so they were taken back. So Nigeria has rejected it, so if you go there, then you have a problem. And then the Basel Convention entered into force on the 5th of May, 1992. To date, it has, the last count, 189 parties. 51 African countries have ratified. There are 54 African countries. We are now talking about e-waste in Africa. So we try to find little statistics. How many countries in Africa are actually complying or taking notes of these conventions? And then Basel Convention requires each party, that is, if you are an exporter, you are a party. If you are an importer, you are a party, to minimize waste generation and transboundary movements of hazardous waste and other waste, to ensure availability of disposal facilities for environmentally sound management. ESM means environmentally sound management, located to the extent possible with its own territory, to strictly control transboundary movement and disposal operations, including storage, treatment, reuse, recycling, recovery, and final. So it's, like we said, it's a life cycle approach. All the phases, you have to make sure that consignment is not dangerous to human beings and the environment. Basel, again, contains a detailed prior informed consent. What that means is, I can't just come and dump something in your backyard unless there have been exchange of documents where I apply and say, I want to send so waste, can you treat it for us in an environmentally safe manner? Then the government of that country too has to be informed, and then the headquarters of the convention. Everybody is transparent, has to see that you are following due process. So that's what the convention does as far as hazardous waste. From life cycle approach from beginning to end, they monitor and they ensure you have the prior informed consent followed, and then the transboundary movement also very, very important. Now, during that time, I remember it was during the military when we had the issue of cocoa toxic waste. Bamako, the president of that country at that time, was angry that why are they dumping toxic waste in African countries? And he also felt that just putting hazardous waste did not go well enough. So he decided Africans should do his own Basel. So that's how the amendment came in, Bamako Convention, named after Bamako, where they took place. And furthermore, what makes it different from Basel? They have added radioactive waste. By UN parlance, once an organization is already handling an issue, another organization cannot handle it. So since International Atomic Energy Agency is handling radioactive, so Africa now bringing radioactive, it cannot fly in with Basel. But anyway, all that has been taken care of. I was privileged to be present at the first Conference of Parties, COP1, and it's going slowly. It's not as been popular as the Basel itself. But it's good that at least Africa had its own. And the other good thing is that they have tightened the ban amendment by saying that by preventing or voiding any movement of waste from OECD companies, the developed countries and the European Union into a developing country. So that was not in the original Basel. So with the Basel ban amendment, then you have this in there. One important convention we look at again, though we've been mentioned, is Rotterdam Convention. Rotterdam Convention, again, relies on the prior informed consent. The idea is everything must be documented and well vetted and make sure it follows due process so that there is no panky involved. So the Rotterdam Convention on the prior informed consent procedure for certain hazardous chemicals and pesticides in international trade, adopted in 1998 in response to dramatic growth in chemicals trade and vulnerability of developing countries to uncontrolled imports. And it entered into force on 24th February, year 2004. To date, it has 165 parties. 43 African countries out of 54 have ratified. Objective of the Rotterdam Convention is to promote shared responsibility and cooperative efforts among parties in the international trade of certain hazardous chemicals by using the prior informed consent procedure. Now, international trade of chemicals under the Rotterdam Convention has its own procedure. So again, prior informed consent is very critical. You have to apply and let the world know. You tell company A in country B, we in Nigeria are bringing these chemicals to you. Do you have the facility? What evidence do you have? Everything will be treated. It will have to be checked before it is allowed. And then, of course, the Secretariat of the Convention also will verify. So there is prior informed consent under the Rotterdam Convention, under chemicals listed in Annex 3 of the Convention. Information exchange under the Rotterdam Convention, very important. Parties should refrain from trading chemicals that are banned or restricted in the exporting party. Beyond what the convention say, some countries may put additional restrictions on certain chemicals based on the experience in the country and maybe adverse conditions which they don't want. So you don't ignore whatever is coming from the parent country. Now we talk briefly about import responses under the Rotterdam Convention. The convention keeps record of PIC, prior informed consent documents. Every aspect of is documented. And if a country responded with no consent to import, it says we don't import, customs on that country should take control of the entry of these chemicals. Let me quickly share an experience. The UNEP in 2009 to 2012 organized what we call E-Waste Africa. I was opportune to be the coordinator. The first phase, we did 7 countries. And we also interacted with EU regulators and so on and so forth. This was very, very interesting. we found that the custom in any of the countries had nothing to do with e-waste or hazardous waste. The government doesn't involve them. Okay, it's too round up. So the technocrats have to bring in the customs, work quickly with them. So Stockholm. Now, we have the Bamako is the one that the government there tried to introduce its own convention. And I did a summary how African countries are faring with adopting the convention. Basel, 94%. Basel Ban Amendment, 46%. Stockholm, 83%. Rotterdam, 79%. Bamako, 51%. What matters is the enforcement. The problem that usually happens is that these conventions are not domesticated into national laws. That's why I'm sure DG of Nigeria can give us more experience on that. Now, to assist the countries in implementing all these conventions, regional centers have been established under Basel, Stockholm. In Nigeria, we have, or well, let's say in Africa, we have the Basel Convention. There are 4 centers. There's a center in Egypt for Arab-speaking countries, a center in Senegal for French-speaking countries, a center in South Africa for English-speaking. There has to be a coordinating center. The coordinating center is in Nigeria. And I was opportune to be the first director. Yes, thank you very much. And there are 14 regional centers all over the world, more in developing countries. Now, in conclusion, toxic chemicals and toxic waste are harbingers of diseases, poverty, and death when not controlled, and developing countries are at great risk. A large number of people are injured or die each year as a result of exposure to toxic chemicals and waste. Most poisoning cases result from lack of knowledge about risks and from carelessness. Prevention of human exposure to toxic chemicals and waste is the best antidote. Toxic chemicals and waste worsen poverty. African countries should domesticate and enforce the MEAs they have ratified, not just ratifying. That's there we can get full effect and get the custom involved. The capacity of custom authorities in African countries need to be strengthened and sustained to prevent the African region being dumping ground forever for hazardous waste and prohibited chemicals. Now, ladies and gentlemen, next slide. How do we help keep electronic waste from growing? That's a challenge to IUPAC. The tree keeps on growing. How do we stop it? Next one, please. Yes? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Please, may we appreciate
for
you.
this wonderful presentation. You have showed us that the framework, the sound handling of a lot of the waste in the world are in place. It is up to the people now to live according to the expectations. I think we have to move on.
Please, let's give him a more resounding applause. That was a very good one. Professor Oshiba. The relevant international conventions. So we are all very well informed. Thank you very much, sir, for this comprehensive, detailed speech. That is the keynote address number 2. We will be taking the keynote address 3, and that will be online, virtual. So in this process of putting it up, I want to quickly do some introductions of our distinguished guests that came in while the speeches were going on. First and foremost, I want to introduce our past president, Professor Gloria Obuzo. Madam, you are here, you're welcome. Professor Gloria Obuzo was the Chemical Society of Nigeria president in 2014 to 2017. The first female president. I need you to give her a resounding round of applause. The women are coming up. You are welcome, ma'am. We'll also introduce the Vice Chancellor, University of Maiduguri. He's here with us, Professor Aliyu Shugaba. He's also a fellow of the Chemical Society of Nigeria. You are welcome, sir. You are welcome. I introduce, again, another female. You will say the women are coming really up. Our current president of the Institute of Chartered Chemists of Nigeria, ICON, Professor Fana Abdurrahman, Professor Fana Abdurrahman. She's also a fellow of the Chemical Society of Nigeria. You're welcome, ma'am. Professor Alao Amaka Peter of the Delta State University. Alao Amaka, I think I'm right. Professor Alao Amaka. He is representing one of the awardee, Professor Andy Egunyenga. He's the Vice Chancellor of the Delta State University, Abraka. I'll also introduce with us, we have people from the Ministry of Education, Alausa, Director of Science and Technology Department. You are here with us, Mrs. Akin Foweya. Are you here? You're welcome. The government people are here. Also with Mrs. Shobowale, you're welcome too, madam. I'll quickly also take the introduction of Dr. Samuel Adekunle. He is representing Dr. Adesokon James Ojebode. You are the president and founder of the Atiba University, Oyo State. Please, the representative, let us see you. You are welcome. Thank you very much, sir. He is representing the president and founder, Atiba University, Oyo State. That is Dr. Adesokon James Ojebode. Now we will take the third keynote speech. Is he here? The keynote address. Okay.
Yes? Do you hear me? I don't know if I am connected. Hello?
You are connected.
It is a great pleasure for me to introduce the next speaker, Carlos Martin Novella, from the Secretariat of the Basel, Rotterdam and Stockholm Conventions, where he is Deputy Executive Secretary and has been so since 2017. Mr. Novella had a distinguished career internationally. Before he came to the Secretariat, he was engaged and worked at the Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change. Before that, he had a senior position as a UN Environment Program representative in Nairobi, Kenya for 4 years. And before that, he worked for the European Commission. So with this background, he is perfectly suited to see and tell us about e-waste in Africa and challenges for it. So please take the floor, Mr. Martin Novella.
Thank you very much, Professor Sidness. I hope you can hear me properly.
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, or good afternoon, some of you, depends the part of the continent where you are. We would like our main to thank the conference organizers for the opportunity provided to the Secretariat of the Basel, Rotterdam and Stockholm Conventions to address this illustrious gathering. Professor Aliyu Hauro and Dr. Osibanju already said most of what I could say. The presentations were excellent and very comprehensive, but you know, the repetition is the basis for emphasis. So I would try to focus on some of the areas that they already touched, but I think trying to be complementary and I think are worthwhile to put a bit of emphasis on that. As some of you are aware, and in particular after the presentation of the previous speaker, the Basel, Rotterdam and Stockholm Conventions are the key global legally binding instruments for the elimination and sound management of some of the world's most toxic chemicals and hazardous wastes. They share the common objective of protecting human health and the environment from hazardous chemicals and wastes fell within their respective scopes. Taken together, they cover key elements of the cradle-to-grave management. This is what has different terminologies. It was called circular economy. There are different terminologies, but really the issue at stake is how to look at the waste not in isolation, but how all the processes generate waste and how this can be minimized and managed eventually. The Basel Convention on the control of transboundary movements of hazardous waste and their disposal and its implementation is particularly relevant for this gathering, since it is a key tool for addressing the e-waste challenge the world faces today. Globally, the e-waste challenge stems from the gap between the fast generation of e-waste and the lagging capacity of countries to collect and dispose of it in an environmentally sound manner. The generation of e-waste is rising every year in the world, and this trend is confirmed also in the African region, as the previous speakers as well illustrated. But there will not be sustainable development without tackling this challenge. In the African region, half of this increase can be attributed to population growth. African population is the fastest growing in the world, with the population in sub-Saharan Africa expected to double and count for more than half of the global population growth by 2050. This is data from the United Nations in 2019. Combined with increasing urbanization and economic development, penetration of electrification and digitalization, the growing population can be expected to lead to significant increase in consumption of electrical and electronic equipment in Africa. For instance, between 2015 and 2019, the amount of electrical and electronic equipment placed on the market in Africa, including new and used products as well, increased by 24% from 2020. Secondly, to the increase in electronic consumption in Asia in the same period. Most of the electronic and electronical equipment is imported into Africa rather than being assembled there. Second-hand markets are common in most countries. Use, repair and refurbishment equipment is either imported as such or is repaired and refurbished in the region. The reuse of electronic extends also to produce components, as spare parts from all services are stored and cost to repair second-hand equipment. This was described by Groschuk et al. In 2020. The repair and refurbishment sector is characterized by a low degree of formal training and provides income to many people in the region. For example, it is estimated that in 2011, Ghana had 1,200 equipment repairers, primarily situated in Greater Accra, as well described by Moyang, Yanosei, et al. In 2011. While in Nigeria, for example, 30,000 persons are estimated to be involved in the repair sector. If we shift our focus from the use of electronic and electronical equipment to e-waste, we can see that in 2019, some 2.9 million metric tons of e-waste were generated in Africa, compared with the 53.6 million tons generated globally. This represents 2.5 kilograms of e-waste generated per capita in a year, as described by Ford in 2020. Even though this figure shows that Africa had the lowest per capita generation of e-waste in a year worldwide, this amount represents an increase in e-waste generation of about 16% in 2 years only. For 2014, 2005, Valde et al. In 2017, and in other publications in 2015. According to the global e-waste monitor data, as described by 40 in 2020 again, the countries that generate the largest amount of e-waste in the African region are Algeria, Egypt, Morocco, Nigeria, and South Africa, together responsible for almost 70% of the e-waste in Africa. Per capita generation ranges significantly on the continent, with some countries generating an average of 0.5 kilos per capita, with others generating as much as 10 kilos per capita. So it's a magnitude of 20-fold, so from some countries to another countries. However, these amounts are significantly lower when compared to average e-waste generation in Europe, that is 16.2 kilograms per capita in the Americas, and 13.3. Sorry, I get the data from here. Apologies for that. It is 13.3 in Americas and 5.6 in Asia. This is well recorded in the e-waste monitor report of 2020. With these trends in e-waste generation, without a conspicuous investment in infrastructure and facilities for the environmental sound recycling, substandard practices and open burning risk to become the only practicable solutions in many places. For instance, in Africa, the informal sector is mostly dealing with the e-waste recycling. In Ghana, it is estimated that more than 5,000 scrap workers operate daily collecting e-waste and either dismantling it on the spot or transporting it to private backyards where dismantling and recovering of valuable materials may occur. This again described 2020. Similarly, in Nigeria, up to 100,000 persons are estimated to work within the informal electric and electric sector. Hazardous practices for informal e-waste recycling include manual stripping of electronic boards, extraction of valuable materials with substandard acid washing, open burning for extraction of metals, or cherry picking of valuable fractions and dumping of other fractions. It is important to highlight that informal workers are exposed to risks associated to hazardous chemicals liberated by the processes such as lead, mercury, dioxins, furans, persistent organic pollutants of different sorts, brominated flammable retardants, etc., etc. Open burning, for instance, can be a source of unintentionally produced POPs, such as dioxins and furans. Dioxins and furans and POPs, flame retardants, are subject to the Stockholm Convention, to which most of the African countries are parties to. Unfortunately, women and children living around the scrapyards or working with hazardous waste are the most vulnerable, and therefore also big waste, as provided in the Article 4.2b of the Convention. The Basel Convention also provides that every transboundary movement of hazardous waste be subject to the prior informed consent procedure, leading to environmental sound disposal. It is also provided a definition of illegal traffic in the Article 9 on the Convention and requires its parties to introduce appropriate national legislation to prevent and punish illegal traffic. The other speakers already said the importance of domesticating the legislation in relation to national codes. Finally, since December 2019, the PAN amendment to the Basel Convention is in force, prohibiting the export of hazardous e-waste from developing. As of today, 100 parties are bound by this amendment, and we really encourage other parties to follow suit and to ratify this amendment as quickly as possible. Parties to the convention adopted in 2006 a declaration on the environmental sound management of e-waste, and since then have supported technical assistance programs in all United Nations regions around the world, and have developed guidance documents on the environmental sound management of mobile phones and computer equipment to two partnership initiatives, namely the Mobile Phone Partnership Initiative and the Partnership for Action on Computer Equipment. In 2019, the Conference of the Parties to the Basel Convention established a new partnership, the follow-up partnership debate, to continue to catalyze solutions for environmentally sound management of mobile phones, computer equipment, and to support the development of policies for environmental sound management of e-waste. Currently, as part of the activities under this partnership, the Basel Convention Coordinating Center in the African region, based in Nigeria, is implementing a pilot project in Nigeria for delivering training to all the authorities involved in the implementation of the Basel Convention. This project will complement the ongoing implementation of an extended producer responsibility policy scheme in Nigeria. We heard about this earlier this morning, and we really congratulate the government to take this initiative. Extended producer responsibility schemes, among other e-waste management policies, have been pivotal in creating financing systems to support the sound collection and recycling of e-waste. As many of you know, these schemes provide the equipment producer or importers assuming responsibility to take back programs directly to gather in producer responsibility organizations, which collect and recycle the e-products at the end of their life. In support of these policies, the Basel Convention developed a practical manual on the establishment of extended producer responsibilities as part of the fund management toolkit. In addition, in 2019, the Conference of the Parties, after a long debate and negotiation process, adopted ad interim another technical guidance on the transboundary movements of e-waste, focusing on the distinction between waste and non-waste. That you cannot imagine how complicated it is. It's not as simple as it sounds. Looking ahead, in June 2022, the Conference of the Parties to the Basel Convention will be considering a proposal submitted by Ghana and Switzerland to add a new e-waste code to Annex 2 to the Convention, including e-waste, which is non-hazardous among other wastes covered by the Convention. The addition of this code could entail that all transboundary movements of e-waste, hazardous and non-hazardous, would become subject to the informed consent procedure of the Basel Convention. This proposal, similarly to the Plastic Waste Amendment, is based on the recognition that the massive generation of e-waste will be a challenge in the future, no matter if the e-waste is hazardous or not hazardous. The proposal is also motivated by the observation that too many shipments of e-waste are unaccounted for. This addition would ensure that transboundary movements become more visible, and final environmental sound management disposal could be ensured by a mandatory contract between the relevant entities in the exporting and importing countries, as provided by the prior informed consent procedure. As I conclude my intervention, I would like to acknowledge with appreciation the focus on e-waste of this conference, which I hope will contribute to set the basis for future commitments by governments, the private sector, and other stakeholders in Africa. To ensure the environmental sound management of e-waste is a reality, protecting the health of those involved in its cycle, combating illegal traffic, and bringing prosperity without harm for the environment. I wish you all an excellent and fruitful conference, Mr. Chair, and also, if you wish, I can distribute this keynote to all the participants, as well as some slides that I have not used in this occasion, but could be useful for some to review some of the data information that I provided. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this very precise and formative presentation. Yes, we will appreciate to get access to your material, and we have to relate to the organizers on the ground in Lagos to distribute that. For the benefit of the schedule, which we have left long ago, I think we can't allow any questions. But thank you very much, Carlo, for your very interesting presentation. And you have a key role to play. And I realize again that we have a very solid framework in many ways, but what is missing is to live up to the expectations and the requirements. Thank you very much. I don't know if this is going into Paul, but thank you.
And to you.
Yeah. Take care.
Yeah.